Okay, so the whole goal of this video is to figure out how to graph this equation. So how are we supposed to graph this equation?
Well, to be honest, all we've learned is how to graph from vertex form and how to graph from factored form. But this is standard form, so I'm not really sure how we can start.
Okay, that's good. So how is it that we could turn this into factored form? Or is there a way that we can turn it into factored form?
Okay, so I guess we can try to factor this and then it'll be in factored form. Okay, but I don't know how to start factoring this. I don't really remember.
Okay, well, we need to notice that there is a number in front of the x squared term. So we need to decide if there is something that each of these terms are divisible by. So is there a number that all three of the terms are divisible by?
That's right. Yeah, we can divide all the terms by 2. So we can common factor a 2.
Awesome. So let's try that. So if we did that, what would we get?
So I think we'd have to start with y equals again.
Y equals.
And then we'd start with a 2, and then I'd open my bracket, and then I think I need to multiply this to something here to make 2x squared, so I think that should be x squared.
Good.
And then I need 2 times something to give me negative 4x, so that'll be minus 2x.
Good.
And then here I need 2 times something to give me negative 16, so that'll be negative 8.
Awesome. All right. So that's our first step. Okay, what do you think we have to do next? What's the next step here?
So now I remember to put it into factored form, we want to try to break this into 2 things that multiply each other. So to do that, I think we need 2 things that multiply to negative 8 and add to negative 2.
Okay, so what numbers can we think of that multiply to give us negative 8 and add to give us negative 2?
This gives me trouble, so what I like to do is I like to start listing all the things that multiply to negative 8. So for example, negative 8 and 1, but those don't add to negative 2. It could be negative 4 and 2, and those add to negative 2.
All right.
So it'll be negative 4 and 2.
Great. So once we have those 2 numbers, how are we actually going to place that in the equation? What do we do here?
So I remember that, so we still have y equals.
Still y equals, good.
And then the 2 stays there because we haven't done anything with that. And now this gets broken into 2 sets of brackets.
Good.
And I know we start with x and x because x times x giving me my x squared. And then we use the 2 numbers that I found. So negative 4 plus 2.
Perfect. Okay, so that's fully factored then.
All right.
So that's great. So now we have to deal with the business of graphing this.
Okay. Now, I think if we have factored form, what I can see in the equation is the x-intercepts.
Great. So in this case, what does the equation tell us the x-intercepts are?
So I remember that it's the number in the bracket, but we have to switch the sign. So the x-intercepts are 4.
So I'll say x equals 4.
Right? And x equals negative 2.
X equals negative 2. Okay, great. So those are our x-intercepts.
Okay.
But we need something else, right? That's only the x-intercepts. We need to know a little bit more.
Can I, just to keep track of stuff so far, can I start with what we found already? Can we start drawing a graph with what I found already?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what's this graph going to be like then?
So I know that there's, with my axes, I know that I have an x-intercept at negative 2, so right here,
Great.
and positive 4. So that's what I know so far. What else do I need?
Well, yeah, so there was one other defining feature of a parabola.
We need the vertex.
The vertex,
If I could know where the vertex is, then I could figure out exactly how to draw this thing.
Okay, great. So we have to find the vertex somehow. And we know that parabolas tend to look the same on one side as the other side. So how do you think that might be able to help us out here?
Right. So I think that the vertex is going to be right in between these 2 x-intercepts.
Great. So we know that it's going to be partway between negative 2 and 4. And we need to figure out what value that is. So how might we be able to figure out what's halfway between negative 2 and 4?
I remember to find the number in the middle, we can average them out. So we can say negative 2 plus 4 divided by 2.
Divided by 2. Perfect. Okay. And negative 2 plus 4 is 2 divided by 2. So that gives us 1. Great.
All right. So what I just found out is that somewhere at 1, so somewhere along this line, there's a vertex.
Great. Now we need to figure out where along the line this is going to be. Okay, so we know the vertex is somewhere along the line. We need to figure out how far up or how far down it's going to be. So how do you think we might be able to do that?
So I'm thinking, since this is an x value, and I have an equation here that relates x to y, I can just take that x value, plug it in, and find out what y is.
Perfect. So let's do that. I guess we can do that over here.
Yep.
Okay, so what's that going to look like then? We're going to have y equals
So it'll be 2,
2.
and then bracket, 1 minus 4. And then a new bracket, 1 plus 2.
Okay, awesome. And now we just need to simplify that.
Yeah.
So we're going to get 2, open bracket, so 1 minus 4,
So that's negative 3.
negative 3, 1 plus 2,
That's positive 3.
positive 3.
Okay.
Okay, and now we just have 3 numbers that we need to multiply. So we have to do 2 times negative 3
So that's negative 6.
times positive 3,
Negative 18.
negative 18. Okay, so that tells us that the y value of our vertex is going to be at negative 18.
So on my graph, since negative 18 is a pretty big number, I want to go up by maybe, or I want to go down by maybe 4. So negative 4, negative 8, negative 12, negative 16, negative 20, and that means that negative 18 is right about here at the coordinate, because I knew the x coordinate was 1, and the y coordinate's negative 18. So that means that my vertex is there.
Great. So now we have the vertex, and we have the 2 x-intercepts of this parabola. What's the last step?
So now, I think with those 3 points, we can just sketch a graph.
Great.
So that means that it'll go like that, and since it's symmetric, I'm going to draw exactly the same thing on the other side.
Perfect. All right. Awesome.
All right, so now I know how to graph a parabola from standard form by turning it into factored form.